Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Cal and Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. If you're just joining us for the first time, we do this every Monday morning. It is a live show. It's a call-in show. Now, what we usually do is have a topic, and we talk about that topic, invite you to call in and ask questions regarding that. Or if there's any other health issues that you've been dealing with, as someone that you know has been, call in and ask questions about that as well, and pass the question along to our producer, and they'll pass it along to us. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or toll free from anywhere, 800-349-0713. And this morning seems to have been what lately hear more and more about COVID coming back, a little bit more than normal. And
it's not really as much about it coming back as there's a lot coming out about it.
I just don't think it's ever went away.
It's never went away. Exactly.
Right.
It's here.
But I think people are dealing with it a lot better than they have.
In some ways.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we've noticed is a lot of people have kind of dropped their guard as far as keeping their immune system healthy.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I still see masks a lot of places.
You know, occasionally, but and it's not so much about the mask, so to speak, because that mask is really probably not going to help defend you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
If it did, it would have stopped COVID whenever.
Yeah, it would have stopped it in its tracks. Yeah. But the thing that about it is, if you let your immune system get weakened, if you will, then you're more susceptible to it. And that's kind of what we're seeing now, is the people have, because we talk to them all the time. They back when it was hot, a couple of years ago, so to speak. Were you taking? Oh yeah, I took everything. Boy, I had me a regimen. Blah blah blah. And now I say, well, are you still taking your vitamin D? Well, no, I quit that. Why? And
exactly.
Well, I don't really have a reason. I didn't think I needed it. Well, okay, yes, it's still here. COVID's not going to go away. It is now part of our culture, if you will.
Just like the flu.
Just like the flu.
Right.
And it's going to be here, and it's going to be mutated every time you turn around. So it's going to be a different variation and so on. So we have to stay healthy, people. I mean, the problem we have is dropping our guard, not staying healthy, and that's the big issue that we see, with COVID. And of course, there's all sorts of complications from it and so on.
Right. There's a lot of research that's been coming out because it's been long enough now, and they're starting to look at, what
you can do.
The spike protein and what things that you can do.
Right, and I was going to ask you about that.
Like
What is talk a lot, as you said, a lot about the COVID spike protein. What is the COVID spike protein?
Well, the spike protein is the mechanism, if you will, that virus uses, and it's a huge protein. I mean, it's got what, 12 or 13?
It's like 12 to 1,600 amino acid strings, which is really,
huge.
really big. It's long.
But it's the mechanism that virus uses to gain entry into your cells. Now, once it gets inside your cells, that's when you got a problem. That's when we have the symptoms and all the issues that go along with it. So the spike protein is really the culprit. I mean, and they have found it. They've even found it in our brains, or in.
And then even every
postmortem
vaccine that's been used uses the spike protein in the vaccine as well. But that spike protein is one thing that could cause a whole lot of problems.
Right.
And especially if, when you get that spike protein in your body should start breaking it down. They say it should be broke down within 2 days, maybe up to a week. You start breaking down that spike protein. Well, that's not happening in many people.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
Whether it's from COVID itself or whether it is from the vaccine. If your body does not break down that spike protein is going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
What kind of long-term problems can it cause?
Well, we're seeing, the
Long haul COVID.
we're seeing
What?
Long haul COVID.
Long haul COVID?
That's what they call it.
That's what they call it.
You maintain symptoms of COVID a long time. I mean, months and months and months. It goes on, and we get these people that just complain about, well, God, I had that a year ago. Yeah, and it's what they call long haul COVID. But also things like the blood clots. I mean, we're seeing some really big issues with blood clotting. Well, the increased strokes, et cetera, et cetera. Myocarditis, which is an inflammatory condition around the heart, and it's not much fun, and can cause a lot of problems. And then other things. And when it starts getting into the central nervous system, and it has been shown, post-mortem, in other words, after death, when they've examined some of these things like CNS fluid and so on, they're seeing that, yeah, okay, there's that spike protein inside there. So it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it gets in the brain. And we have people that talk about well, I've got COVID brain. And that may be 6 months or a year after COVID. And yeah, it's real. So that's the kind of stuff it can cause. I mean,
COVID brain.
COVID brain,
there's a lot of people. And we're not experts in COVID and the spike protein. I wanted to just say that. But we have dealt with this for as long as, we see it every day.
Couple of years, yeah.
And
Well,
we
it's been
see
3 years
people,
or so.
multiple people every day. So when it comes to seeing patients with it, we hear all the after effects. Because, of course, when people have these problems with brain problems and they come to us like, okay, what can I do? Nobody's given me anything that I can do for this. And so we do see a lot of it. And now it's not just us saying things. There is research coming out on what you can do to help dissolve the spike protein, what you can do to get over long haul COVID, what you can do to help the brain problems. Thing is that the brain thing is kind of scary when they actually have found it in the central nervous system.
Yeah, really.
And they think there's other ways it can actually get into the brain as well, not just through the CNS. So that right there is a problem when it can get in the brain. And they're finding out when they're doing some of these post-mortem autopsies that these spike proteins aren't broke down. They're supposed to. It should, technically, your body should break them down. But not everybody's body works perfectly, obviously.
Well,
and
your body has to make the antibodies to help break them down.
Yeah.
And some of us, for whatever reason, our immune system, not at 100%, so to speak, can't do its job. And that's the problem. Because, if you take 100 people and line them up, you're going to get at least 99 different reactions to this stuff. 2 of them might be the same. But that's basically, you're going to get a lot of different reactions to that spike protein and to any other thing, any other pathogen that comes down the pike. Same way. And so this is the problem. We've got all these people out there and they think, well, so-and-so didn't get it, or so-and-so got it and did this, that, and then, it's not the same. You're different. And you have to keep your immune system really healthy. And I think that's the key is, one of the problems we have is people, like I said, people have dropped their guard and they're not as concerned about it, so to speak, and then all of a sudden, boom, it gets you.
But it can do, autoimmune diseases, and increased cancer, they've actually found. With people that have had COVID, they're finding increased cancer risk. And with the vaccine, just that spike protein alone, no matter where you get it from, can increase cancer risk, like I said, blood clots, heart problems, inflammation, autoimmune, brain problems, memory issues, and just feeling sick, like a lot of people do, which is like with the long haul COVID. So you're talking about it can cause a lot of problems, and it is causing a lot of problems in people.
Yeah.
We ourselves have seen just a huge amount of more people coming in with cancer.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, it's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Have any questions regarding health or our topic this morning, the COVID spike protein, give us a call. You can take a break. We'll be right back. And welcome back. It's 10 minutes after 9 o'clock, our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. We're talking about the COVID spike protein. And how long does it remain in the body?
Well, normally just a few days or so, if your immune system's working optimally, a few days or so.
You should start breaking it down in a few days.
And so it starts breaking it down. But if your immune system doesn't, they're seeing this thing long term, long way after the initial infections and so on. And because if a person's immune system is not optimal and not able to break it down, and a lot of the nutrients that you need to break it down and so on aren't there, then they're seeing this thing long term.
And they're finding the full spike protein,
right,
like way later.
Way later.
And that shouldn't happen.
Months.
It should within a week or two for sure be broke down. And even after the vaccine, all the vaccines were made for that spike protein. Then when you make immunity to it, it should break it down. And they're finding even that not broke down in a lot of people, which they are linking to some of the problems that's going on with the vaccine, to not breaking down the spike protein. And even with COVID and having COVID and COVID symptoms down the road, it's because you're not breaking down that spike protein.
Right.
So the whole thing is about how to break down the spike protein. That's actually
Well, what can you do to protect yourself?
Well, yeah, that's the key. I mean, and there's really some interesting research coming out. I've got several papers here and we're going to talk about all this
And they
stuff.
are published in peer-reviewed journals,
Yeah.
in medical journals, so it's
And-
not
and-
just us saying it.
No, it's some of the bigger journals around the world, really. But what they're seeing is things that we've talked about this one a lot. That's the nattokinase. Nattokinase, and we've talked about how it breaks down. It's a enzyme that actually eats or breaks down proteins. Okay, and spike protein, nattokinase, they don't get along. Nattokinase will eat it, break it down. So it degrades it. That's what they call it. It's a big word for eating the damn thing. Okay, they degrade it. Okay, but it does degrade it, and the research is showing it. Yeah, this really does work. So that's something right there that we can do. And we've talked about, of course, it's good for your cardiovascular system and everything.
Definitely.
Anyhow, and here's another reason to take something like that.
And
because
they've actually shown that it actually helps with the amyloid plaque in the brain
Right.
to prevent brain problems as you age. So really, the nattokinase has shown some unbelievable properties, and we've known that it's been good for a long time, and we've used it a lot for many years. And you got to take enough of it to make a difference. Now, that's another thing. Sometimes on dosage, it does make a difference on how much you take. And
Well, they talked about in this one paper, and it's put out in a journal called Molecules. Molecules is one of the bigger journals, peer-reviewed journals around the world. And they actually talked about nattokinase, and the way it works on that spike protein is it's dose dependent and time dependent. In other words, you can't take a dose of natto today and it's going to work 3 days from now. It's got about a 12-hour half-life in the body as far as being fully active. Now, it's somewhat active later after that, but it's fully active for about 12 hours. So you've got about a 12-hour window, so you need to dose it about twice a day. And that's kind of what
it is
what
best
you're
done on
saying.
an empty stomach.
That's the Natto Advantage.
That's the
Yes.
Natto
what I
Advantage.
Our
take.
natto
I take-
advantage.
Right,
Yep.
right.
I take it
right.
take 2 in the morning when I get up. First thing is
Yep.
when I'm waiting on my coffee to brew.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
I take my 2 of those. Take 2 of those, 2 bromelain and 2 GTAs.
And actually, bromelain's been shown.
Bromelain is the other one that's been shown.
Well, I'm just
Yep.
jumping right on there. But
Yep.
do that,
Oh,
and
you
then
see, you're doing good.
Then I take one natto at night before I go to bed.
But,
Right,
but bromelain
exactly.
is another proteolytic enzyme.
Right.
Yeah, because
so-
it's anti-inflammatory.
Well, yes, and proteolytic
From,
enzymes eat up.
pineapples, if I can remember.
Yes, it comes
See?
from the core of the pineapple.
I've learned so much
Yep.
from them in the past 8 years.
And you've had COVID and didn't know it.
Exactly.
And it's probably because you were taking things. He had COVID and didn't know it.
Didn't know it.
We know because of antibodies.
Right.
You had a positive test. We did antibodies on him later when he was around 1,000 people with it and didn't know it.
Yeah. Well, I had it, and then and it was like 8 months later that I took the blood test and was negative, but I had the antibodies.
You had the
Right.
antibodies, right?
So
right.
yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely, I think, makes a difference. Now, I was sick for like 2 days, but didn't know it was like, I don't feel really
Same
good.
here, yeah.
And then found out later that's what it was because I wasn't very sick. Again, it was during being run down because of his surgeries. But even though he had just had surgery and was compromised himself, he didn't get sick, but he takes a lot of natto.
Yeah.
And he has for years because of cardiovascular.
Right.
So I do think it is very protective. And you don't want to wait until you have a problem. Now, I think, honestly, I've always said everybody over 50 probably needs natto anyway. Best stroke prevention you can do, keeps down plaque in the arteries. It's been shown to help reverse plaque in the arteries. It's been shown to do so many things that helps with aging, helps prevent with your brain problems. So there's a lot of things that you can, that helps with. But now with seeing what it's doing to the spike protein and all that's just been coming out like in this past year, even younger people should take it, and it's not going to hurt. It also increases circulation. So that's just something that, one thing, if you're on a blood thinner, you want to be careful with it. Doesn't mean you can't take it, but you want a lower dose.
Right.
So that is something that.
Right.
All right, we got a caller with a question. My wife and I have gotten the COVID-19 vaccine along with the booster. It's been about a year and a half. Is it worth getting the new booster?
That's a loaded question. I'm going to put it right back on you because I can't make that decision for you. Personally, she and I have never had the vaccine, not the first one. Worked more on keeping our immune system healthy because I think that's our best defense. Now, if you're not going to do something to keep your immune system healthy, that's a decision that you and your doctor need to make. But I can't make that one for you. Really can't.
We have not seen people that have had the vaccine not get COVID.
Right.
And I even see them get very sick when they get COVID.
Right.
So I've not seen a giant difference. And I've actually during
Same
this
here. I've known people that have gotten the vaccine and they gotten
right.
got COVID
So
really bad.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I said, what we do pushes us more toward prevention and health. That spike protein that we're saying is really harmful, you also get it from the vaccine.
Right, that's one of the
So I
sources.
wouldn't purposely put it in my body, but that's me. So it's something, because if your body can't break it down, you're gonna have problems, whether
Right.
it's the COVID or whether it's the vaccine. And that's what they're finding on the research,
Right.
is that spike protein is the problem. And so I don't like reintroducing more spike protein myself.
No. And,
But it is your decision, and you and your doctor's decision, and we tell
Yeah.
people that's your choice. We can't make it for you.
Right.
Yep.
All right. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open to you. It's 17 minutes after 9 o'clock. We'll take a break, and we'll come back with our final segment and a look at this week's special. And welcome back. 19 minutes after 9 o'clock is our final segment this morning. Let's go ahead and look at what our weekly special is.
And guess what? It's
How about
the nattokinase, the Natto Advantage. We think, well, we put it on sale before. Great response to it, so we're going to put it on sale again because we do think it is that important, especially in this COVID thing, and even with the other stuff too, like cardiovascular, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also has, our Natto Advantage is nattokinase at a pretty high level, and it's actually the main ingredient. But it does have serrapeptidase, which is another proteolytic enzyme, and then it has rutin in it, which rutin helps the integrity of the vessels.
Right.
And it's a pretty good dose of rutin that's in it, and it actually strengthens the vessels themselves. So that's actually beneficial as well.
And just keep in mind, too, whenever you do get any of the supplements from Doctor's Nutrition, they are all pharmaceutical grade supplements, and you don't need a prescription for them or anything like that. But it's better than you can't just go to your big box store and expect to get the same thing.
You're probably not going to find
You probably won't find that
anyway.
I was gonna
It's a
say, I
very
can't
special,
remember.
It's a specialty product, really,
Yeah.
and so it's something that you aren't going to just find at every store.
Mm-hmm.
But other things, we were talking about that help with the problems are NAC. Now, NAC is something that a lot of people, when COVID hit, were taking, because NAC definitely showed to help with, it keeps the lungs from consolidating. It helps with just overall problems with COVID is one of the things that was been shown initially. Now they're actually finding that it does keep down the clots.
Yes.
A real big issue in keeping down clots, which is something we had never used it for. Now, Natto also does that, but NAC, a lot of the research coming out for COVID is what's showing it.
It was kind of it was almost like reading the research, and of course these guys are pretty technical, but when you start reading it through, it's almost like they said, it actually does,
Yeah.
It's like it kind of shocked them that it really does tend to keep down that clotting factor, which they thought, how in the world? Well, then they got into that. How in the world does it do that? And they explained the mechanism, which, oh my God, if you want to, go to sleep at night, I'll give you the research article and you can read it. It'll put you to sleep. But it's that technical. But anyhow, they found that it really does work, keeping down that. I mean, it does things, and they found that if they use dosed N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, along with glutathione, it really helped it work that much better. Interestingly enough, if you take NAC by itself, it increases your glutathione. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. You get
Then you need
two things.
you need alpha-lipoic with it, and
Yeah.
all that to help with making the glutathione.
Right.
But that is also, glutathione is a detoxifier.
Right.
And NAC has been shown to be a detoxifier. And like I said, NAC we've used forever for keeping down consolidation in the lungs and helping with even allergy symptoms and things like that.
Any kind of breathing
Yeah.
issues.
So N-acetylcysteine is really good for lungs. So it's one of the things that we've used. And when people have come in with long haul COVID, even before some of the research had come out, we were using the olive leaf extract, which is antiviral. We were using NAC, making sure their vitamin D levels were optimal, making sure they had all their nutrients optimal. But at the same time, we've always used the NAC, and people have a really good result. So that's another one. And NAC is so inexpensive.
Oh, it's
really is.
very inexpensive.
And so
I'll tell you
that's
how
one-
good it is. I'll tell you how good it is. The FDA tried to take it off the market. Anytime you see the FDA say, "Oh, we're thinking we need to remove this from the market. It needs to be a pharmaceutical. It's been used for 50 years."
In the 80s, it was approved as a pharmaceutical in the medical industry because
Right.
it is used for Tylenol overdose because of how good of a detoxifier it is. It's also used for breathing, some of the breathing things and people on ventilators and stuff to keep the lungs clear. So NAC has been used in medicine, but it is a natural substance. And when all this hit and everybody was taking NAC, they started saying, well, maybe we should make it just a drug so that people can't get access to it as easy. And because it is so cheap. And so, and the good thing is it
It's
didn't,
like the government trying to stick their
it didn't happen.
dirty little paws and everything.
It didn't happen, but that was talked about. And so, and like I said, it would have taken a product that was, I think it's $16, $17 a bottle.
If that.
Something like that. It would have taken it up to, a couple hundred. It would have made it to where it was very expensive.
And you wouldn't have access to it.
People wouldn't have access to it. Yeah. So the good thing is you do still have access to NAC and access to Natto, and there's things that you can do for yourself. Yeah. And like I said, the bromelain is another thing that actually is beneficial. There's other things that actually have been shown to be helpful too, and that is like intermittent fasting and low caloric diet has been shown to help with the spike protein.
That increases something called autophagy. Now, a lot of times when you mention autophagy to a patient, they get this kind of glazed look in their eyes, sort of like the deer in the headlights, and they don't understand it. But autophagy is a process, kind of a big word for self-eating. Auto meaning self, and then eat for autophagy. But what happens is the autophagy starts, and it starts to degrade. Like, so for instance, you got an old cell not working quite like it should. It's kind of limping along, but it's still going. And when this autophagy kicks in, what happens is it says, hey, that cell's not working real well. We're going to stop it. We're going to break it down. I'm going to use this part over here. We'll make a new one out of that. The rest of this stuff needs to be degraded and gotten rid of. That's what autophagy does. Now, how do you increase autophagy?
Intermittent fasting, low caloric diet, melatonin, resveratrol. There's a lot of nutrients that actually can do it as well. Resveratrol is one of the big ones that's been shown to help, and melatonin. So when you start talking, there are things that you can do to help yourself. You don't want to wait until there's a problem.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I can answer this one because I do.
Yeah.
Can I take Natto with blood pressure medication? Yes.
Yes, you can. Now, Natto
Natto
has been shown itself to lower blood pressure some. It's not like, it doesn't just drop it like a rock, but it can lower it. We tell everybody that takes it with their medication, and you can take it with it, just to watch your blood pressure. If your blood pressure starts getting lower, talk to your doctor. They can maybe lower your dosage of your medication.
And over the years, we've had quite a few that have had to lower their medications simply because it got better.
Yeah,
right.
We never tell people.
Here.
We never tell people to do it on their own.
No.
We tell people if you start seeing the blood pressure go down, talk to your doctor because they need to. You don't want it too low. So it's not that it interacts with the blood pressure, but it can make your blood pressure lower, which is actually a good thing.
That's a
when
good
you can
thing,
take something
because you can take
that
something
beneficial,
more natural, exactly, to lower your blood pressure.
Take something that beneficial and also, take less medication. Yep.
Which, again, I did at the very beginning. I was on pretty hefty dosage of blood pressure medication and was able to get off of it with all the stuff that y'all have with the regimen y'all have. Next week,
April is Stress Awareness Month.
Oh boy!
But like I said, I don't think anybody needs to be aware
should be Christmas.
if they're stressed or not.
I think we're all aware, but
So we're going to talk some of the natural things you can do for stress.
all right.
Okay, wonderful. So be sure you tune in next week. Matter of fact, you can any kind of questions you might have, you can go to doctorsnutrition.com on their website, and you can also find a plethora of information on their Facebook page. Anyway, I hope you have yourself a wonderful week. We'll see you again back next Monday morning live here on WLOX CBS for another edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.